I'm Joseph Brenner. I wanted to say a couple words about handling roughly parallel data structures in Perl, in particular, doing arithmetic on them. Uh, like this particular line of code, I think it's pretty clear what it should do, though Perl does nothing useful with it actually, because here you've got these two quantities, they've broken down by two-digit country code. You probably want them to line up, right? Subtract German from German, Spain from Spain, and so on. But that's not actually what happens. Pop quiz, not that this is going to stump anyone here. Here is what actually does happen when you do that. Well, now myself being an old timer, I expected that we would get bucket reports there, that you get strings that kind of reflect what's going on in the hash, but don't really tell you anything useful except that they're false when the hash is empty. But around Perl 525, it turns out that's actually changed to a count of hash keys, which I did not pick up at the time. And that actually seems like it might be useful, though it doesn't help us in this case. Still, nice little improvement from the Perl 5 porters. Doing pretty well for something that everybody knows is dead, in any case, right? So I'm sure we can all knock out some Perl code to do more or less the right thing with this, like this, for example, just three simple lines. We go over the keys and do it explicitly, except there's a bug in here. I would call it a somewhat subtle bug. It's kind of insidious in that we could have a key in cost that is not there in gross. So we could be silently dropping information on the floor with some code that looks like it's working in most cases, but will suddenly die if there's an odd one with a missing key. So myself, I'm a little paranoid about this. I tend to write things like this these days. You grab the keys from both, join them together, uniqueify them, and loop over those. And that's fine, but it's getting a bit much. And here we introduce the CPAN module I wrote some years back. This is perhaps the simplest possible case. You might want to reach for this. It does recursive descent through arbitrary Perl structures, looks for things that seem like numbers, and tries to perform that indicated numeric operation on them. And that certainly works in this case. This is the kind of case I wrote it to work with. This is a stripped down version of a data structure I found out in the wilds. I had to do maintenance on code that used something like this. It's hash of hash of hash, year on the first level, month on the second, country code on the bottom. I wouldn't have done it this way. I mean, the months, you could use an array reference, right? But anyway, this is actually something I actually found in use, including some oddities like this, like the tax rate was thrown in apparently for reference. There's some text comments. It's fictional numbers. Source is Doomvox. That guy Doomvox is making stuff up again. And cost is broken down pretty much the same way. That's what I mean by parallel. And roughly means that you can have holes in it. You can have keys on one side that aren't in the other. Things can vary a little bit. Like this comment here is a little different from the other comment, even though the source string is the same. And when you run this through data math, well, in this case, I would recommend using the skip key patterns feature so you can tell it to ignore those tax rate fields. Because otherwise you're just going to subtract two identical numbers and get a tax rate of 0, which is kind of meaningless and unlikely. I'm not dumping the entire structure here, just doing some checks of some probe values. 2016, February, Germany, 935, subtract 35, you're supposed to get 900. That's exactly what you get. Mildly interesting as this may be, Doomvox is the same on both sides, so it's passed through unchanged. The default behavior is that if there's a difference in the string fields, they're joined together with a vertical bar rather than throw information away. You can modify that a little bit with some different settings. Oh, this is the code itself. don't really have a lot of time to talk about it too much. There's an actual, oh, and that's that. Let's call that it. Less time than I thought.
You still have time. That's the warning.
Oh, the warning. Okay. In any case, there's a full recursive descent. I don't know, maybe I'll make the point that I don't do an eval on these operators. I'm not quite that dumb. Though I am dumb enough to forget to do an else down here. I wonder why there's no else error if you give it something it doesn't know how to deal with. But, whatever. Maybe I'll fix that sometime. This code uses scalar classify, which is just a wrapper around the built-in ref and the library functions ref type and looks like number. Tries to find out everything it can about a reference and give you useful information about it. These are out pretty much where you think they would be. This, however, is now something completely different. It says, how would you do this in Reiku? Back to the simple example. It's actually a pretty nice, tight solution, really. We use mix. It's kind of like fuzzy sets. It's a built-in data type. It's like a set, except the values can be rational numbers. This is the set operation operator in Reiku in ASCII form. And that actually does exactly what we need. It lines them up according to keys, subtracts off the values, and gives you the right answer. So that's a nice win for Reiku, I think, once you understand the slight oddity of the mix types and how it behaves with set operations. And that, in my mind, raises the question of how would I re-implement data math in Reiku? I've only just started thinking about this. I'll probably go into this a little more in the next Reiku study group on June 20th, which will be available in a Zoom session near you if you have any interest. I don't know. The pieces all seem to be there, but it seems to me like there ought to be some tight idiomatic solution. I have a feeling I'm missing it. There's got to be something a little better to do. But anyway, let's call that it. I'll wrap that up right there. The slides are up at GitHub. The slides are actually Perl code, more or less. And I dumped my links into the chat window at the start. So hopefully those are visible to anybody who cares. Not formatted very well, but what can you do? So thanks much.